Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film episode of Inside Movies Galore, where we are continuing our themed month of the January Blues. And I believe this is the last episode in this series of films that we've voted on, and Tammy chose the title of the film. The film is My Blue Heaven, which stars Steve Martin and Rick Moranis. Not to be confused with the 1950 film My Blue Heaven, which was more of a musical number. But
or the Danish film that came out the same year.
But let us see what IMDb says about the film. Let's see, My Blue. Okay. The film was filmed in 1990. It was directed by Herbert Ross, who did such films as Play It Again, Sam from 1972, The Turning Point, The Goodbye Girl, The Secret of My Success, which was an earlier film with Michael J. Fox, and so on and so forth. Oh, he was the choreographer for an uncredited choreographer for the 1967 Dr. Dolittle. Okay, so he's had an interesting career, but this is what IMDb says about this film. An all-too uptight FBI agent must protect a larger-than-life mobster with a heart of gold, currently under witness protection in the suburbs. So, going into first impressions, let's start with you, Forrest. Was this a first-time watch for you?
This was actually a second time. No, this was a second time watch for me. I just watched it for the first time last year, honestly, last year. I like the cat. I think this movie has a great cast. You get Steve. I mean, it's stacked. You got Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, Joan Cusack, Carol Kane. A lot of familiar face.
Daniel Stern there for a couple of scenes.
Oh yeah, Daniel Stern. That's right. And I know that Steve Martin and Rick Moranis, Steve Martin and Rick Moranis had worked together previously in Little Shop of Horrors and Parenthood, but to me, this movie just was not in the same league as those two. While I did find it interesting that this was kind of, this actually makes an interesting double feature with Goodfellas, as Goodfellas is about the life of gangster Henry Hill, this movie's kind of even though it's not directly about Henry Hill, but it kind of follows this a mobster like Henry Hill in his life and witness protection. So that part I think was interesting, but I just felt like this kind of just the I don't know. Maybe if I watched this movie when I was younger, I would have loved it. I would have loved it more, but to me, this one was just. I just felt it was just as far as was just okay. I don't know, and I think again, and I think the performances are great, but I think it was just more. My issue was just more with the script, with the script. I don't know. Yeah.
Is that pretty much it then for you?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Heading over to you, Tammy. Was this a first-time watch for you? And I guess some of us are curious as to why you chose this film.
No, it wasn't the first time. I haven't actually watched it in quite a while, but I remember the first time I watched it. I just the humor in it, it always made me laugh, and um, I just had a lot of fun with it, and for something, I guess at the time, especially something different. It was to me when I first watched it, it seemed like the comedy and everything, and it just was a little bit different than what was out there at the time, and I just really enjoyed it, and I've I've watched it on and off, when it would come on TV because I don't own it at this time when I would see it, and um I just always enjoyed it, and it's one of those that people don't talk about a whole bunch or whatever, but it's fun. It's a fun comedy. You know, it's David, even you said you're not a big Steve Martin fan, but you actually enjoyed it. It's just so it's even if you don't maybe like some of the actors that are in it, when you put them together in this, you know, it, it's, I don't know how to explain it. They become more enjoyable to people. It's just that's the way I chose it because it's the theme was blue for the month, and it's one that just doesn't seem to get talked about a whole bunch anymore, and it was just a fun film.
Okay. Heading over to you, Jake. Was this a first time watch for you?
Believe it or not, yes, it was. Growing up, there were a few Rick Moranis films that I really enjoyed, and I definitely watched. And there were several that I just missed outright, and I'm still slowly looking for them. And I admit, growing up, I was not a fan of Steve Martin. I've become more of a fan over time, and I've become much more. He is interesting in the role. Let's put it that way. In some ways, this character reminded me, kind of like we were talking last week with Jumba in that trial scene where he just could not shut up. He just could not stop. This guy, Vinny, in this movie, seems like a guy who is woefully lacking in survival instinct, which is unfortunate if you're going to be a mobster, especially if you plan to go into witness protection program. He doesn't know how to turn it off. What's that?
He definitely doesn't know how to turn the car salesmanship off.
Right. Or more like the carjacker shit. But I do think it's interesting that we the theme this month was January Blues, and we hit upon there was another unintended theme of movies that could be accused of through today's lens of cultural appropriation, and this one has Steve Martin trying to play a Sicilian gangster, and
yeah, that was my problem. I mean, it wasn't so much that I just didn't. It wasn't offensive to me, but I just didn't buy him as a gangster. I just didn't buy him as a gangster.
I think I bought him as the character mostly, but I definitely didn't buy him as this particular, like the personality, the way he plays the character.
Right.
Steve Martin was a great choice for that sort of manic, I can't stop myself sort of thing. But in terms of playing like a Brooklyn gangster, it was hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what I understand, he was poised to play the Cooper Smith role, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was poised to be the gangster, and that might have been even more suspect.
Well, it definitely worked out for Schwarzenegger.
Right. Well, I don't know. He was doing Kindergarten Cop instead, so I guess maybe that worked out. But the and you mentioned the Goodfellas thing. I did not even know that going in, but yeah, this came out the same year as Goodfellas, and it is loosely based on Henry Hill, and to the point where Hill apparently went on the record saying he was upset about the movie. But interesting thing, I don't know if you guys came across this. Filmmaker and novelist Nora Ephron wrote the screenplay for this one. And Nicholas Pileggi wrote the screenplay, or co-wrote the screenplay for Goodfellas. And they were married at the time. So that was really interesting. I don't know if they were just thinking like one day, like, why don't we do two versions of the story and see which one works? It makes you wonder.
I think Warner Brothers released both movies.
I believe so, yeah. But basically, and apologies again for some, but overall, I did think that this was a fun movie. It did have, again, a couple of points that could have been stronger. I do agree that this was a good example of the cast working well together. I do think that they all worked pretty well together. And yeah, overall, it was interesting seeing Rick Moranis play a slightly more take charge kind of character. Usually he's not.
Usually he's a nerd.
And he's still a nerd here, but he's still more of a take charge. The part where he whoops Daniel Stern's ass and throws him into the bushes is actually kind of funny. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a good one. I'm glad. And I did want to mention an interesting serendipitous thing about this was I don't have it in the collection. I'll have to get it. I probably should have gotten it ages ago, but I'll definitely have to get it. But I checked a couple times at the library to see if I could rent it and check it out, and didn't see it. And then, like, the last day I worked in the weekend, I saw a copy, and it would not. This was the great part. It was brand new. They had just got a copy at the library, like literally this month. And I'm like, the timing on that was just, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, the universe wants me to see this movie. So, but like I said, it was a good one. I'm glad we got a chance to look at it. And Dave, you were mentioning some of Herbert Ross's other stuff.
Yeah.
I've got unwatched copies of Play It Again, Sam, and The Goodbye Girl, so I would love it if we find a way to get those watched.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. Heading over to you, Brandon, I guess, unless you have anything more to your view.
Oh, no, I'm done.
Okay. Brandon, was this the first time watched for you?
Oh, no. This was a favorite of mine. I saw this probably a little while after it came out, when it came to HBO or one of those, like, satellite ones. So probably when I was around 12, maybe 13. One of those films that I taped and liked watching over and over again. To tell you the truth, I'd seen Steve Martin in other things, but I just, as a younger person, I did not recognize Steve Martin in this because he came across as very different to me than some of the others. Now I see it real easy because, it's one of his shticks that he usually puts on. But also the him getting this hair colored in helped making it different for me as well.
Right.
But I love the pairing. and it's just a generally fun, feel good movie. Just an easygoing comedy, which I enjoyed. Um, I always loved Steve Martin's character as a child, just because it was always fun watching him basically try to fast talk everybody. And in some cases he was good at it, but in many cases he seemed to be very bad at it. And it makes you wonder how he was a success as a criminal at all. For the character, which I understand now why the guy that was loosely based off of didn't care for it, because it made him look very incompetent.
At one point, he did say he was doomed to middle management, and you gotta wonder if the real reason might have been that.
Yeah, this is his way of doing it, but still very fun, very enjoyable. I whenever I would be down, I'd love to put this one on, and it would usually cheer me up. Just a general comfort food of a film for me. Nothing that I consider spectacular, but just one that's just generally just enjoyable.
Okay. This was my first time watching My Blue Heaven. Never seen it before, but I have seen Rick Moranis and other things. My first time seeing Rick Moranis in anything was when I first saw Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and then I think I saw Ghostbusters, and then I saw Strange Brew,
Really?
which yeah.
Honestly, for me, it was Honey, because I would say for me it was the similar order for you, except I would put Spaceballs before Strange Brew.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Forrest. I'm not even sure I've seen Strange Brew.
Strange Brew's great.
Yeah, which is interesting because they kind of almost seem to like dress him up in his old Strange Brew outfit, like for when he goes undercover. Because they dress him up as a Canadian. So, but yeah, I'm normally not a Steve Martin fan. Not a fan of his gimmick routines, but his character comes off as like almost like a shady car salesman, except you're supposed to like believe that he's like this ex-crime dude who's like trying evidently ratting out some people so that he can like lead a straight life, but he can't exactly keep out of the limelight. So it was interesting watching his character and watching Rick Moranis' character as they seem to somewhat bond, over strange moments. But that being said, I enjoyed the film more than I probably thought I did or was going to. Maybe it's because it is a different role for Steve Martin. Though I'd seen him in the dentist in fucking what was that?
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, Little Shop of Horrors, which was another somewhat pairing of them two.
One of the only other shows where he colored his hair.
Yeah, and that role was a hell of a lot more hard to get into than this one. So, that being said, let us go into the plot. So we do have. I'm trying to think who exactly was entirely narrating the thing, because it referred to I did this and I did that like in the wording, because every time they came, it's like vignettes, after saying certain things like, this is how this is how my marriage went to shambles or some shit, in the very beginning.
So
And
I think what you're referring to is the title cards, which is an interesting touch in this film. There's title cards scattered throughout, and I saw them as being in Vinny's voice, but did anyone else wonder?
okay, so
I thought they were Vinny also.
okay, so they were technically being told through Vinny's eyes, per se. So we have a couple show up to a house, or home, so to speak, that evidently Rick Moranis's character is an FBI agent. But at first, I'm thinking he's talking to them like he's like a what is it, a person who sells homes.
A real estate agent?
A real estate agent, almost. But then we learn that he is an FBI agent who is putting him up in a safe house to, because evidently he's got a couple of trials set to talk about some really high rolling gangsters, and kind of get a lighter sentence for whatever he's done. And he comes with this redhead of a wife, that pretty much basically just up and leaves him. And he immediately, I guess, immediately in the next scene, he goes shopping. And the shopping spree is kind of an interesting scenario, because he does a few things that he takes a price checking thing and marks them all down to like 39 cents a piece.
Yeah, he grabs a price. He sees a stock boy putting prices on. I think it was cans of soup or something.
Yeah, this part I found funny.
Yeah, he puts them on a bunch of steaks.
And that person just like checking
I
it
was
out,
laughing
like
about that too. That means these steaks are all being priced like a can of soup.
yeah. As a kid, I didn't get why he was nervous when the guy came in to ask him. It's like, I trusted you had a good shopping experience. I didn't think about it that he was like worried that he might have been caught for like marking all the steaks down to 75
honestly,
cents.
when I'm going out and shopping, I'm there to shop. I'm not there to like talk to anyone,
Right.
or whatnot. I'm there to pick up my shit, get to the checkout line, and get out of there. I'm not looking to talk to anyone or do any surveys or anything like that. I don't have patience for that.
Unless you're with me, then you're there to to pick up everything you possibly can and say, "Oh, get this."
Well, and Vinny would be very happy these days because arugula is widely available now.
Yes. Especially on the West Coast, I'm sure. But it is interesting. It's a little bit of culture shock because here he is. He's from like Brooklyn or whatever, and all these people are being nice to him, and he doesn't know how to take it. It's like he thinks they're up to something.
Well, and I guess he ends up taking somebody else's car, gets picked up by the local police, and she's trying to process him and charge him with stolen goods, because evidently there was a bunch of stolen shit in the back of the car anyways, and it just so happened to be the car of a local priest. or pastor or something like that. And I guess he's sort of like flirting with the lady. And I guess he makes reference to her shoes, like as he like walks off when the FBI agent Rick Moranis' character walks in and basically states, "Hey, you can't touch him. He's a witness for protection. No matter what you think you can do, he's my witness, and it's kind of above you."
Oh, he was gloating at the end of that. Basically, the shoe thing was about him basically gloating about how he got to walk when she wanted to basically prosecute him for all the obvious crimes that he was committing. It was he was there, but you've noticed that he has a type, though, and the DA isn't his type. He likes redheads. Definitely loves redheads.
And the dingier they sound and act, the better.
Oh yeah, but yeah. So this isn't his first like outing with the law, as we find out, because he actually runs into the police lady a couple of times out in public, but he okay. This was the part that okay. So while that is going on, it then goes to Rick Moranis' character, and evidently his wife is a veterinarian, or not a veterinarian. She is a therapist
Yeah.
for sports guys, and she is running off with the latest sports guy to, I think, was it Tennessee, or she said she was going somewhere, and he didn't really put up much of a fight when she left. Although she basically stated that he has a system for everything. Where he's even got a system of making sure that his pancakes get butter and syrup all the way to the bottom flapjack. And
I want that system because I like having the syrup on each and every pancake if I can get it.
I know I want his system.
but in any case, so the wife leaves, and so I guess in a sense, both characters are kind of in the same boat, where both of their wives leave, and I guess the conversation comes up like shortly thereafter, and I believe there is also we get kind of a somewhat of what's going on in the policewoman's life, where she is recently divorced and the husband just evidently decides to like walk in whenever he feels like it, and thinks he owns the place, even after the divorce is said and done. Evidently he thinks he can just like, instead of like knocking or ringing a doorbell, he just show up whenever he feels like. And that apparently is something that she has a problem with, but she's not exactly voicing her way in that part of the thing. And I guess one of her kids has a pet turtle as as a pet, and
Fluffy.
she was told not to do something with the turtle, and she ended up having a phone call, and which upset her, and so she was cleaning and drinking, and evidently she didn't realize that the turtle was in this bowl, and the turtle went down the garbage disposal while it was on, and we assume that it had a violent death.
Yes.
It's like, what was he? She was not supposed to like, hey mom, don't throw my turtle down the garbage disposal.
Well,
and
he
chop
said,
it
"Don't
up."
let the turtle go down the drain," I think, or something like that.
Don't flush the turtle down the
Don't
toilet.
flush it. Yeah, don't flush it. Not don't grind it up into little itty bitty turtle pieces.
So she goes. She ultimately goes to a pet shop, which apparently, before she even goes to it, I guess our happy-go-lucky Steve Martin's character notices that she's out and about, and is like, hey, you know, and they both go into the pet shop together, and he's all about the puppy. Because evidently he had a puppy at one point in time, and he couldn't take it with him or whatnot.
And the pet shop owner, well, I don't know if he's the owner, but the the guy behind the counter, I think he's the owner, is Billy Sparrow, is played by William Hickey. It's always fun seeing him in those roles that he was doing that time of year.
I mean, and he was and Vinny was there to basically get some stolen credit cards, which of course turns out that it was kind of an undercover operation by the FBI. Again, he keeps getting nailed for crimes he does because he keeps being careless with it.
Right. Then, of course, he comes to find out that the guy at the pet store is an old friend of his from back home.
Yep.
And they come to realize that there's a whole bunch of them in this neighborhood. And
he ends up being invited to like a barbecue or dinner or something like that, and he realizes all these guys that should have been dead.
Right.
Even some that he was a pallbearer.
Aren't you dead?
You dirty rat. I say it better.
It definitely seems like poor planning on the part of the feds to move all these people to the same town.
Well, even Rick Moranis' character was kind of like, how can we get him in trouble when he's already our man, you know? And I do have to say, Rick Moranis' character goes by the name of Barney Coopersmith. And I guess Vinny does some sort of matchmaking with him and the policewoman eventually, but before that even happens, I guess there is a night where and this is after Vinny takes him to a suit place or whatnot, and tells him, hey, we don't match, like we got to get like better suits if we want to look good in court, you know.
Notably, this is where they've returned home for the first of the trials. And there's definitely a protocol that Barney is trying very, very hard to follow, and it's not being followed.
No, it's definitely not, because he's trying to order some dinner out for them, and he's like, well, see your suit, it's all wrinkled and stuff. I'm gonna go take it down to the dry cleaners, and then I'll be right back. I'll see you back in 5.
Well, first you got a great. I thought this was actually a really good scene or amusing scene. Is they're coming off the plane? Barney's talking about, okay, so you got to keep a low profile. You know, you don't let anyone know you're here or whatever. And then it's like all his family and close friends are sitting there waiting for him at the airport.
Including his mother,
Yes.
which he asked him to take the handcuffs off for, and he has his mother, or so-called mother, meet Vinny, and she is told that his wife left him or whatnot, and she's like, "Oh, did you meet my niece?" Evidently trying to play matchmaker. I forget exactly what he said that he was, because he played him off as some kind of like inventor of something. But I thought it was kind of funny at the moment, and then he kind of gave him the brush and disappeared. And he's left saying, "Well, fuck, where the fuck did he go?" You know. So he ends up finding him at the suit place, and he finds him a suit, which I guess they match. But it's later that he ends up going down to the bar area where he's talking with all these like thugs, or made men looking guys, and Rick Moranis is in a coat with no pants. And he basically tries to pass him off as like this crazy gangster guy that just happens to be so crazy that he doesn't wear pants. But
I love that whole part in New York where, especially at the beginning, where he's like his mother is there, and it's like they're all basically in on it, as he uses this as an excuse to slip away. I just thought that was hilarious. Where he would tell him like he was the inventor of the rotary engine and things like that.
Oh yeah, and then I think what happens is he gets some pants, and they end up going to some club, or I think the club is inside the bar, and Vinny goes over to a couple of girls and charms them a little bit, and I guess they both ask to be danced with, and that's where that's where Barney learns how to dance the what was the name of the dance? I think it was the Mongo. Or
No.
The merengue.
the merengue.
Yes.
There we go. The merengue. And honestly, they have. I was really impressed with Steve Martin's dancing and his dance moves. That he knew, and eventually it looked like Barney learned a few dance moves too, which ultimately played a role in like his romance with the policewoman later. But I do like the whole setup to the matchmaking that Vinny does with her, because ultimately, because apparently Barney can get baseball tickets, he ends up sending her tickets to come to to this game, and I guess Barney is ultimately invited, and he really like charms the kids and whatnot while he's at the game. But I do have to kind of mention that the policewoman's like partner or whatnot at the police station, that redhead, she like has like the house for Steve Martin's character Vinny.
Yeah.
So I think she keeps like helping him out and whatnot from time to time. In fact, there is a moment where Barney shows up at the jail cell that he's in, and he just walks out of the jail cell like nothing, like he could have like walked out of there whenever like he wanted to, and I guess that's when he made a phone call.
Right, that was kind of amusing, and it was something like he's like, I get a call after all, and it was something like, do you want me? I think he was calling out to the guard, like, do you want me to use the one in the office? Or
Yeah, that was a hilarious comedic timing when he's sitting there talking to him in the cell, and Steve Martin just walks right out of the cell. So I don't like the bathroom in there, so they let me use the one in the office down the mall.
Right.
And one of the officers had knit him like a pillow, which I thought was great. He had a pillow with his name on it.
And so I guess Vinny, after his meeting with all of the guys that are supposedly supposed to be dead, he literally at the head of the table says, you know, since we're all here anyways, we should just like get back into the game. And so they kind of do. In fact, it's because of one of these heists that the police pull his ass over, and he's got a stack of books and several.
Oh yeah, that was one of my favorite things. Like she's the DA is interviewing him, like, why do you have books? And he's like, well, I'm thinking about writing one. And then she's like, but you have 25 copies of the same book. He's like, well, I might want to read it more than once.
Well, the problem is she actually, I did find again, Rick Moranis managed to pull that right out from under coming in there. It's like, did you get the permission to search the car? I didn't think so. All right, bye. She was too zealous in what she did, so she didn't follow protocol. So she screwed up on that one.
Yeah, they always show in these like earlier comedies like the bumblings of police proceedings, and you know why things go the way they do. You know, and it kind of works in his favor as far as like, you know, witness protection stuff. But she does, after this particular meeting, say, if you actually do anything outside of the law, I will be there, you know, for your next fuck up, which is basically what she is. She kind of goes and does ultimately, because it isn't there like one more instance like later. Yeah,
well, it's the little league scam where
the little league scam, which we don't know whether was a scam or not, because
it's kind of funny how it is. As a kid, I wanted to believe he was doing it the whole time. As an adult, I am like, nah, he wasn't doing it until basically right before the right after he was charged. so
Yeah,
that he could.
I believe that was pretty much his phone call. Okay,
Oh,
guys,
yeah.
go get your building shit and build this little league shit.
And they do set that up earlier because the kids complain about they have this field out back, but it's all muddy and nasty, and they have really nowhere to play. So when they all go out to a ball game together, so yeah.
Yeah, and it's because of the kids seeing him out and about, like grabbing these like big like water. What these basically are is they actually stole like this truck, which ended up just being these empty water containers, which would have filled like your water bubbler.
Yeah, like an
Like,
office water dispenser.
yeah, and he was like, I don't call this a failure. I know exactly what we can use this for. So he ends up like sticking all of them inside like convenience stores and ends up making change in the all in the name of a donation for a good cause.
And have you ever seen one of those get that filled at any place ever?
Not really to that extent.
No, I've never seen one of those get that full, and all of a sudden he's got them everywhere he grabs one.
I'll be back in 2 weeks. But yeah, so the policewoman really has it out for him, and because of I guess by this time Rick or Barney has actually gone out like with the policewoman and had like a good night with her. In fact, she made sure the kids were elsewhere.
Right.
And they did have an interesting romantic moment because Rick Moranis is really a small guy, and what's her name who played the policewoman? She's a really
Joan
tall
Cusack.
woman. Joan Cusack. She is a really tall woman, so he actually had to step up one step to actually like get in the right kissing position.
Right. And that also led to the scene that I mentioned before where where we had already set up that her ex-husband just kind of comes and goes as he pleases. And so yeah, the kids are gone. So they have a nice, evening in. And then the following morning, he her ex-husband just walks right into the house, and Barney comes up behind him and manhandles him and tosses him out of the house. And I was like I thought that was kind of hilarious, but it was a good, good teaching them a lesson moment. Definitely earned him a lot of points with the DA, Hannah. I think it was also about this time that that Martin, that Vinny called. I think it was about this time that Vinny called from, I think it was Reno, where he had met someone at the supermarket and was instantly drawn to her. He clearly has a thing for trashy women, and
love
this
at
is
first hindsight.
What's that?
Love at first hindsight.
Right. And Carol Kane, of course, being the target of his affections, but he called from I think it was from Reno, saying like, hey, I got married, but don't worry, I didn't marry her under my real name. And supposedly that actually was based on an event in Henry Hill's life. So that may have been one of the things he was a little upset about. He was probably embarrassed by that.
Well, and after he got off the phone, I think he had a conversation with Joanne Cusack's character, Hannah Stubbs, because Vinny kept calling her Mrs. Stubbs or Ms. Stubbs.
Right.
But I guess after he got off the phone, you don't have a problem with him now because he's into monogamy, do you? But there is kind of a rift that happens between them because of Vinny. And it kind of all plays out because he kind of sticks up for Vinny and says that he's kind of known about this whole like building of the Little League thing to begin with, like later on, but he was sworn to secrecy or something like that. But she actually like had a hearing about this whole thing, you know.
Well,
that-
before that, Vinny gets himself out of trouble by saying that he's just a small. He's got a bigger fish out there for her, or she's trying to bust for illegal activity, and
Right.
they end up busting Barty and his partner that are undercover.
yeah.
Yeah, so this was the whole thing about them playing Canadians, which I did find out was funny because Rick Moranis very famously is Canadian, and actually is one of the reasons he doesn't work much because he doesn't want to be bothered coming down to California to do stuff very often.
And I do
Actually lives here in New York. He actually lives here in New York.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I do have to mention his silent partner. His silent partner that wants undercover work.
Yeah.
When he starts dancing the merengue on his own after the couple, that was a hilarious moment. Like
It was interesting.
when,
But yeah.
even at the end, he starts dancing, you know, the merengue or whatever. So it's. I thought when he started dancing on his own, Tammy and I like busted out laughing because he actually could bust a few moves.
Right.
But
basically they were undercover to try to bust this hijacking ring.
And he keeps calling him Dickie, which pisses him off.
Yeah.
He's like, if you
Well, that is his.
time, I'm going to kill you.
That is his undercover name. There is a part of me that I understand that as a kid, I definitely could relate to the partner being so excited to go undercover. Sitting there in the hotel eating takeout, playing Nintendo as a little kid. That would have been a really cool assignment as far as I would have been concerned. As an adult, I can see where that would get very old very fast.
Not to mention there are multiple hints that his partner is married with kids and would pretty much rather be anywhere but home.
Yeah. That's that is kind of a sad thing, but and then when they realized that the main contact that they had that they were stinging was actually Vinny, it's even worse. But I guess it makes sense. He basically was the source of all the crime in that little town. So
yeah,
and I guess the whole suburb plot here, a suburbia culture shock, was just kind of in the political or the mind of Hannah, basically, because I didn't really see. I saw that there were some townsfolk that believed in what she said in the hearing part. But oh, when the guys showed up in the courtroom and started shooting, I thought that was kind of hilarious too, because she was saying the whole idea that two guys who show up in white ties uh, to shoot him shoot this guy down, and then
Comedic timing, very much.
so which kind of leads a chase to the baseball diamond. The hitmen show up again, and that's when he does some six shooter actions. So
I love how it's
I wonder if he had just gotten off the set of the Three Amigos at this time because he did some six shooter action there.
I mean, I like how he's in the middle of his story and basically disarming them with the gun and putting it back. There was kind of an afterthought because it's like, hey, I'm in the middle of a story, guys.
Yeah,
that whole bicycle story with the Christmas thing is like, and there on the floor in front of the tree was my cousin, was my uncle, dead. Plus, no bicycle. Oh my.
Yeah, some definite comedic timing there. And I guess shortly thereafter, I guess a year later, is when the grand opening of this thing is, and I guess Vinny is the one to throw the opening pitch, and he walks out in a white suit, and so do the players. And what are the players called again?
They're the Turtles.
Yeah. And they're in the same kind of a suit, but he throws a good pitch, and you see his other friends, gangster friends. They're all the ones selling like the peanuts and the Cracker Jacks and all that.
Car stereos. And he wrote his own book. You could see that he wrote his own book there.
He did. So he did all the things that he said he was going to do. Like, and there is a moment like where the policewoman's partner, she's like, "You can act like I'm your hostage. Can I come with you? Can you take me with you?" or whatnot. And I guess they have a kid together.
Take my car. Take my gun. Take me. I've seen this a lot.
Oh yeah. So I think we are pretty much at the end of the discussion. Did anyone else have anything else to add about the film before we go into production? Okay. So what did you think about the production, Forrest?
What do you think of the production? It was. I think do think the movie that overall has had very good production value. As far as the costumes, cinematography, and the soundtrack. Soundtrack was well. I guess this was more music, but the soundtrack was excellent.
Okay. What about you, Tammy? What did you think about the production overall?
I thought it was good. It was, it was fun. There wasn't really a need for like any like well, they didn't really think use CGI too much back then at the time either. But I mean, there there wasn't any need for any big stunts or anything like that. I don't think in it. It was it's just it is what it is. This is it was nothing extravagant, but it's it seemed pretty for real at you know what I mean. Um, it had definitely they were good at making the humorous points. Like when he put all that money in the trunk of that car, the car went. So, but
Oh, you're talking about the muffler dragging on the floor of the car.
well, yeah, but you saw the back end of the car go, boom, it's like, I think they did a good job. The location looked good, looked for looked legitimate and everything, and scenery.
Okay. What about you, Jake?
Sorry, what was that?
What about you, Jake? What did you think about production?
Um, pretty solid. I mean, about what you'd expect from that particular from a comedy from the late '80s, early '90s. Like, not quite the same level of production value that they would have put into a movie like Goodfellas, but it definitely works.
Okay. What about you, Brandon?
I mean, yeah. I mean, the sets were kind of. I did like the settings. I mean, being next to the ocean. I really did like that restaurant that they were at that was on the beach. I kind of like that. I thought it was a pretty cool setting, and some of the dance club settings were pretty neat.
Okay. I thought the production was okay for the '90s. Per se. I mean, um, it was pretty straightforward. Um, you could tell which areas were which areas, and definitely not a bad production. Per, but I guess we're into the soundtrack. So, what did we think about the soundtrack and the music? I know some of you already said some stuff, but um, soundtrack had "My Blue Heaven," which was performed by Fats Domino, "Surfin' USA," The Beach Boys, "Stranger in Paradise" by Tony Bennett. "I Can't Help Myself," performed by Billy Hill, "The Boy from New York City," performed by the Adlibs, New York, New York. "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," which I do have to say something about the ball game. They didn't really show the ball game; they just showed what was happening in the stands. um, and the Star Spangled Banner, which was performed by the United States Marine Band, I guess. So, but anyone have anything to add about the soundtrack?
I like the
Fun one.
cheerfulness of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And the music, there was a score, I believe was done by Ira Newborn, who was known for such things as The Naked Gun, Two and a Half, Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. He was part of the Blues Brothers music department. Some of the soundtrack of 48 Hours, um, High School High, Bad Manners, Mallrats composer, the Jerky Boys composer, Innocent Blood composer, which was interesting because that was a vampire film. Uncle Buck composer, Caddyshack 2, Dragnet, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Wise Guys, Weird Science, 16 Candles. So he's had a fulfilling career. So that was kind of interesting that there was a Blues Brothers connection. So, but let's go into favorite scenes and our favorite character. Tammy, which if there was a favorite scene and or scenes or favorite character, what would they be?
Well, I have to say I do like Vinny. He's got an answer for everything, and it's he just spins it so like effortlessly. It's funny. Um, favorite scenes. I guess I like the one of my favorite scenes is the whole nightclub dance thing, and he's teaching um Barney how to dance, and the way he starts out not knowing really what he's doing at all, and as the scene progresses, all of a sudden, they're both dancing like, great. It's just I got a real kick out of that one. I thought that was funny.
Okay. What about you, Brandon? If there was a favorite character and or favorite scenes?
Well, I mean, Vinny's my favorite character, but my favorite scene is the story about the bicycle, where he's telling the story about how he always wanted the bicycle, and then when he got under when he went there Christmas morning, he found his relative dead in the tree, and of course there was no bicycle. So that was the reason why he was so disappointed that year that he could never disappoint those kids. And of course, in the middle of it all, like of course the hitmen were of course interrupting him, which resulted in him using his gunplay skills.
Okay. What about you, Jake? If there was a favorite scene and or favorite characters?
I'm not sure I have a clear favorite character. Vinny might be. I do like Barney. I think both of them are great leads. And again, Billy Sparrow amused me quite a bit. There, and so did the policewoman that ends up with Vinny, Crystal Ryback. She kind of amused me. But I guess I would go with Vinny. As far as scenes, particular scenes that I would put at the top. Again, kind of hard to call, but I did really love that comment about the books of like, I might want to read it more than once. I just thought that was hilarious. And it's like, yes, that's exactly the way most people look at books. You read it and you have to move on to another copy. Other than that, like some of the scenes that show Vinny's inability to just be, they just show his lack of of survival instinct. Some of those were pretty amusing too, especially because he was such a good fast talker, and it just kind of was pretty fun there. And yeah, and seeing Rick Moranis beat up Daniel Stern, I was amused by that.
Okay. What about you, Forrest? If you could choose a favorite character and/or favorite scene or scenes, what would they be?
Let's see. Favorite character. I mean, probably. Yeah, I have to agree on Barney. Favorite scene. I'd probably say either when I would say either when Vinny is in the grocery store tagging all those steaks. I always found that part pretty funny, and then also
that was good too.
And when Barney Barney beats up Barney beats up his beats up Daniel Stern.
Okay. I would have to say that my favorite character is, in fact, Vinny. In here, favorite scenes though, I would have to say the partner that keeps on dancing and busting a move behind them doing the Marengo. And I did enjoy the conversation that he had with the kids about the wallet and why you don't place it in a certain spot. Because he told them about the bump. Like all of a sudden you bump into someone, and there you don't have your wallet no more. So you got to learn to place your wallet in a good spot so that they don't like steal it from you. But that being said, is there anyone else who has anything else to say? Alrighty. Well, hopefully you folks out there have enjoyed our discussion on My Blue Heaven. It was a fun watch, at least for those of us who had seen it for the first time. And hopefully you just go out there and check it out for yourself and let us know down in the comments what you thought about it. But Brandon, did you have anything else that you wanted to say about next week before we go into our outros?
Well, next week is the start of a new month, which is the celebration of Jacob and Tammy's birthdays. But we don't get to the party just yet because we have two films that we're going to cover before that. The first, which Forrest is going to lead us in a discussion of the Super Mario Brothers movie, and not the Chris Pratt one.
the one that kind of killed any cinematic prospects of Mario for about 30 years.
Apparently, they decided to go scorched earth on it because I can't find this thing streaming anywhere.
Interestingly enough, another relatively recent acquisition for our library system. They bought a handful of copies the middle of last year.
Well, it still doesn't have a release date either, so. But anyways, let's go into our outros and tell the good kind folks exactly who we are. So, Tammy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm David's fiance. I go on this channel and another, talking about movies and listening to what everybody else has to say and their opinions and having fun doing it. And I have my own collections, and And then in the summertime, I have my car to take out and enjoy.
Alrighty. How about you, Forrest?
All right, my name is Forrest Bennett. I'm an independent film producer and actor based in Long Island, New York. So I've got a few projects in the pipeline coming, including the next Camp Blood movie and Troma's Bring on the Damned. I'm also you can also find me on Instagram under My Name Is Not Gump, where I do comic book pickups. And I've always you can also I'm on a show called Under the Radar, based here in New York, where we review and discuss newer movies and TV shows. And I've always got something going on.
Alrighty. What about you, Jake? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'm Kotobukijake. I'm a movie and general media collector and fan here in Central Virginia, and I'm the co-host of the YouTube channel SeptumSin versus the World, where we talk about such things, media and whatnot. We also do our monthly anime discussion, which tomorrow we'll be looking at Voltron, or at least the first portion of it. Yeah. And then I look forward to, for my birthday month, we'll be covering Kareen, which is a fun little show. I normally would say at this point that I'm usually working. I've got a full-time gig at the nearby library, and also the co-founder of RVA Homegrown Natives, Native Plant Nursery. Of course, being under the radar, I am in quarantine this week, and that is I'm going to be a little cabin crazy by the end of it. So, all the more reason to join these fine folks to talk about the various movies and shows that we talk about. And, yeah, look forward to next week and revisiting a movie that I haven't seen in some time.
Heading over to you, Brandon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, SeptumSin versus the World. We love our physical media. We do pickups. We did a quarantine style pickup this week, which will be out on Wednesday. Not much else new. We've been kind of on a slow bend this year, but we're kind of slowly working on a couple of projects that we hope to get done in the future, given a few months or so. But I'm also on the Schlockaholics channel, where we discuss movie schlock. Our selection this past week was the discussion of the remake of the film Evil Night by Chris Seaver, which was a very fun discussion. And if you enjoy that sort of thing, it's there. And if you go to their channel right after this, they may still be talking on the Schlock Talk, which is about concurrent with this show.
Alrighty. My name is David Streggy. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for joining us on this marvelous journey that we've been having with films from all over the place, including heaven, as you can see. But I guess it's a different point of view that we go on and discuss different films of different natures. And hopefully you'll be back with us next week, as we just heard not too long ago about our decent lineup coming up. So, but I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I also podcast under said title, and we are finishing up the Lord of the Rings initial films, including the animated films, the Lord of the Rings and the Return of the King, coming this next Sunday. So keep a lookout for that. But I also do some video pickups and video reviews of my own. So come around and check us out and like, share, and subscribe on either channel. And hopefully everyone has a good night. And let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion. So everyone say good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.